All right. Hello, Team Schrader 2020. I want to welcome you to today's broadcast about my loved one is struggling. What do I do? Through the episodes that we've had through COVID-19 to get crushing COVID-19 together, many of you have sent in questions about the fact that your loved one is struggling with previous mental health disorders or struggling with overusing or abusing a substance. And so I thought the best way for us to address some of these issues is to bring on someone that I respect immensely, who's really a recognized expert in the area. I'm going to introduce you to my friend Heather Hayes. Heather and I have worked together through the community on panels. We have tried to build awareness of the struggles of substance abuse and mental health disorders, not just in Gwinnett County in Georgia, but Heather has traveled worldwide on a lot of panels. Many of you are aware of the work that I've done in the recovery community, and that's how Heather and I met, and we've just become really good friends because we're like-minded in trying to build a better community and build better resources. So Heather, as you know, COVID-19 has created a lot of struggles for people who, by most terms, would be considered healthy. But even the healthiest of people have found themselves engaging in some self-destructive behaviors. So why don't you share a little bit about what you're seeing, what some strategies that you know are successful, and give the audience a little bit of history about your background.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you. And I'm honored to be here and teaming up with you again. So I
Thank
really
you.
appreciate our friendship and the work that we've done together. So I'm a licensed professional counselor here in the state of Georgia, and I also do a lot of intervention and case management work really all over the country. And one of the things that I've seen in particular is that the COVID-19 virus has exacerbated things for people. Like, we know that when a person is stressed, that their substance abuse gets worse, that their mental health symptoms will exacerbate. And so now what we've done is we've come in and we've layered this extraordinarily stressful, unprecedented situation on top of all of us here in not just in the United States, but in the world. And we're all scrambling to figure out how do we deal with our stress? How do we deal with the isolation? How do we deal with the fear and the anxiety? So if you were a person who maybe had a little bit of anxiety, this is a situation that could almost like pour gas on top of coals.
Right.
So part of what we're seeing too is that a lot of people, for example, in the substance abuse world, are struggling because they're at home with their families more. So their families, maybe if they have a young adult child who's addicted, are seeing the addiction more. People are going into withdrawal because they're not able to get the drugs that they've been using. So they're going into very uncomfortable, difficult symptoms, physical symptoms, struggling. So we're seeing a lot of people becoming more aware of their loved ones' addictions. We're seeing a lot of people struggle and become more aware of their own addiction. We're also seeing good old alcohol out there, which the stores have not closed down. So, the alcohol stores. So we're also seeing a rise in that. There's a rise in domestic violence. I mean, we're just adding stress on top of stress. And like you said, even if someone is healthy, all of a sudden, let's say you're a 2 working family, you've got 3 children. Now you're trying to work from home or you've been laid off. That's frightening. You've got your kids home, homeschooling. Maybe they're different ages, like 10, 6, and 17. So you've got completely different types of structure for the schooling. You're trying to manage that while working. It's overwhelming. And that's a time where I think people will often turn to drugs or become more depressed, anxious. I think the other thing that underlies a lot of it is the fear. There's some principles that we all learn in 12-step meetings, and one of them is kind of based on the Serenity Prayer, and it really says, I have I accept the things I cannot change, and have the wisdom and the courage to change the things I can. I'm summarizing the Serenity Prayer, but part of it is that right now we can't control COVID-19, how it's affecting us. We can be safe, We can take care of ourselves. We can put in all the safety precautions, but it's scary. And where we have a choice is, do we have a healthy fear and a healthy respect of it? Or do we spend hours Googling everything we possibly can, ramping up our own anxiety, finding every horror story we can possibly find, and then having to sit alone in our own fear with that? So, I mean, it's an example of how I think some people are really struggling to not continue to make the anxiety build and grow and get bigger. And part of it's that we don't have people around us that we can connect with,
Right.
and say, let's check the facts. Let's talk this through. Let's use some skills to help manage our anxiety around things.
Well, as a therapist, what are some methods of connecting that you've had to implement so that you can not only support your clients, but any families that are calling you, or loved ones or individuals that are calling you in regard to um, newly addressed or newly discovered substance abuse and mental health disorders?
Well, that's a great question. So it's all coming down to what we're doing now, which is connecting in this new way. And I know if I were younger, I probably would connect like this more. Like, we have a whole generation that
Right.
love to get on FaceTime and love to get on Zoom. It's even been sort of, telehealth has been a newer wave in mental health and in addiction treatment. But now we're at a place where it's either talking on the phone or doing a video conference to connect. Even the 12-step support groups have gone to a format of video conferencing, which in some ways I think are good if you already established in a 12-step program. You've got some friends, you can all kind of arrange to go into this similar meetings that you go to, see each other. But if you're new and you're coming into AA or NA for the first time, I think it can be a little more difficult to connect. The other side of it is it may feel a little safer than having to walk into a
Right.
strange place for the first time too. But we're using a lot of video conferencing to work with families, to work with individuals. We've even done some interventions by video conferencing. I had a situation a couple of weeks ago where I was able to help a person get out of the bluff in the middle
Wonderful.
of act of using solely by text.
That's good. That's
So we're
good. And
being creative.
Another issue that has been brought to my attention is that there's been an interruption in some parenting time schedules where some non-custodial parents are feeling alienated and isolated from the ability to visit with or have contact with their children because the custodial parent is standing behind the executive order of sheltering. Can you talk a little bit about what you've seen in your practice when children feel torn between their parents like that? Have you seen prolonged impacts about that?
Absolutely. I have. I've seen, it's hard for kids. It's difficult on a couple of different levels. One is that when you have a child come from a divorced home, one of the best messages that you can give around that is that, mom and dad, just weren't the right fit for each other. But rather than losing a parent, you're going to gain two homes, you're going to gain two different relationships. So helping the child to understand that it's not a loss, it wasn't their fault, because children will also come in, and particularly younger children, grade school age and younger, will often feel like it's their fault that they did something that caused the divorce, because they tend to think in an egocentric way. And kids also need predictability and structure. So we come in and we've already lost the structure of schooling. So our children who are getting up, they got on the school bus or they were dropped off at school, they had their learning platform, they came home, they had their relationships with their teachers, all of that's been disrupted. So when you come in, and they also have kids from divorced homes or two separate family homes who have a parenting plan, they also depend on that structure. If it's a week on with mom, a week with dad, or weekends with father, They look forward to that and they need that structure. So it can be very disruptive to them because it interferes with their relationship. They don't understand fully what's happening. And in some ways, we don't want our kids to be extraordinarily fearful. We want them to understand we're the adults, we're taking care of this, we're going to keep you safe, and we're going to help you learn how to wash your hands better, how to wear masks when you need to. We're not going to go out. We're going to try and do our best to keep you in some kind of a schedule. So it can be very disruptive on so many levels, but also between the parents who miss their kids and aren't able to see them because of this. So it's been very difficult, particularly if you have children who have parents who are divorced and live in different states and would have had, say, spring break with one parent, and all of that's missing. So I think one thing that parents can do that's good co-parenting is if they are in a place where because of the sheltering orders, they can't take the children back and forth, to give them that extra face time with the other parent. I've had, for example, families where mom actually reads to the children at night because she's not able right now to be with them, so that they're at least getting some of the things that they would have gotten. So just beginning to put those kinds of things in place. And it's another time where parents who are divorced really have to try and step out of themselves and say, what's best for my children? We all know, you know as well as anyone, when we have acrimonious divorces, often the children can be used as sort of the pawns in an ugly chess game. And so that does nothing but hurt the children. So this is a time where, under the guise of what's best for kids and good co-parenting from a divorce situation, parents really do need to call and talk with each other and come up with good ways to have their children be able to connect with the parent they're not able to spend as much time with.
Okay, great. Also, there are a lot of people who have been caught up in the criminal justice system as a result of their substance abuse. And I know that you've worked with that population a little bit. So can you, and I know that there's some people that are watching that have been involved in the criminal justice system. They're currently caught up in the criminal justice system for behavior as a result of their substance abuse or mental health disorder. So can you give that population a few guidelines on how to navigate through COVID-19 with all the additional restrictions or sheltering and things like that, just to make sure that they feel equipped and that they can make good decisions?
So that's very difficult. So if you're in the criminal justice system, one of the things is that there's some individuals who would have remained in jail maybe a little longer who've been released. So now they're out craving without a lot of tools to stop, to manage their cravings. So they're high risk for going back out and using again. Then you have individuals who had structures of like drug court and other things that helped keep them, gave them support, gave them skills and tools. And a lot of those programs have gone on pause for now or look differently. So again, I think that if you can, really take a look at what is available in each county. There are a lot of places that are doing virtual coaching groups, virtual recovery meetings, telehealth. There are a lot of physicians that are meeting with people remotely, a lot of therapists that are doing remote care. So continue to look out and see what you can do to get as much support as you can. And if you don't know how to do that, reach out to someone who might, because I think this is such a new time that it's hard to know what is available. And we don't even have websites up saying what's available because we're so freshly into this.
Right.
But again, I would say reach out to areas that are available, and maybe even the court systems will begin to start putting out some ways to help and some resources.
Right. Okay. And I know that an area that you also specialize in is mental health disorders. Are you concerned about the population that has already struggled with depression and suicidal ideations? And are there additional resources out there to help and support them?
So we are seeing a rise in depression and suicidality. I've had a lot of cases come in where people are having suicidal ideations or having attempts. The other thing is that people who are doing well with their mental health issues are at times having a difficult time getting their medication prescribed, because some of the medications you have to meet with your providers monthly, and the shelter in place has shut down or made it difficult for some people to be able to get to their physicians, to be able to get the medication that they need properly prescribed. So that is very difficult. So again, there are a lot of groups out that, again, suicide prevention groups and groups for anxiety and depression that are there to help support. There are a lot of women's groups, there are a lot of men's groups. I'm seeing more and more groups coming out. I'm seeing a lot of them really sort of present themselves on Facebook or on Instagram, and people are really, pulling together. I even recently saw a women's support group for women with depression that's nationwide. So again, I think that people are pulling together and trying to do what they can. I think sometimes those resources are more difficult to find.
Okay. Could you put a list of some resources here in the Atlanta area for the people that are listening so that we can load that up on this Facebook page?
Absolutely. I can work on that and pull that together. Definitely.
That would be great. That would be great. Also, how can our listeners find you?
So you can easily find me on the web. My web address is www.heatherhayes.com, and Hayes is Hayes. And then I also have a Facebook page, which is Heather R. Hayes and Associates. And on that page, I've been trying to at least once, if not twice a week, put out blogs to give information about how to deal with fear, how to connect in the world of digital connecting, how to deal with, I wrote an article that came out about a week ago that was called I Can't and We Can't, which I think really does summarize what we're experiencing. And it's a principle from the 12-step program, but I can't get through this COVID-19 crisis by myself, but together we all can, and we can continue to lean on each other and become more and more connected as we can and help each other out. So either my website, Heather Hayes, www.heatherhayes.com, has a lot of articles on there, or on my Facebook page.
Okay, great. Well, all right, Team Schrader 2020. I hope that you have gotten some great information about this. Look for additional resources listed in the comments and on my page. I'll do a special blog about the local resources that are available for free, some support services that are available for free. Like Heather said, we're all in this together. The whole purpose of this series is for us to let's crush COVID-19 together. And part of that is recognizing that there are struggles out there that people can't handle by themselves. And there's no need for anybody to feel ashamed. Addiction, mental health is a disease. That is nothing to be ashamed of. What is to be ashamed of is not reaching out for all the resources, all the care, and all the love that is here for everyone. So have a good evening, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.